Captain Reed of the Galactic Alliance vessel. Starhawk drummed his long fingers against the command console. His slitted eyes narrowed as the red blip on the detection grid moved steadily through the Orion border zone. "Confirm target status," Reed ordered, his voice a low hiss. His tactical officer, Liss, manipulated the holographic controls with practiced precision. "Confirmed, Captain. Human transport vessel, designation Phoenix, Class C cargo hauler. Minimal armaments. Crew complement estimated at 12. First Officer Vex leaned forward, mandibles clicking with anticipation. "They're carrying crystalline fuel cells. Black market value. 6 million credits minimum." Captain Reed's thin lips stretched into what passed for a smile among the Tigrian species. The Alliance had declared all human vessels in the Orion border zone to be illegal trespassers, following the diplomatic breakdown last cycle. The humans, predictably stubborn, continued their shipping routes regardless. "Perfect opportunity," Reed said. "Lock weapons. Prepare boarding parties." "Captain," Communications Officer Drav interjected. "Regulations require a warning hail." Reed waved a dismissive hand. "Send the standard violation notice. They'll ignore it anyway." He turned to his executive officer. "Humans. So predictable. They'll attempt to flee, then surrender when they realize resistance is futile." The Starhawk was a Predator-class cruiser, outmassing the human vessel by a factor of 12. Its weapon systems were state-of-the-art, capable of reducing the Phoenix to scattered atoms with minimal effort. "Warning transmitted," Drav confirmed. No response. "As expected," Reed said with a satisfied nod. "Target their propulsion systems." The Starhawk's targeting computers locked onto the human vessel. Outside the viewport, the distant speck that was the Phoenix grew steadily larger. Tactical Officer Liss hesitated. "Captain, I'm detecting anomalous readings from the target." "Specify," Reed demanded. "Energy fluctuations inconsistent with a Class C cargo hauler, and their mass reading." Liss paused, antennae twitching in confusion. "It's fluctuating." Reed dismissed the concern. "Human technology is notoriously unstable." Fire warning shot across their bow. The Starhawk's forward ion cannon discharged, sending a brilliant blue pulse of energy that streaked past the human vessel's starboard side. "No change in course," Liss reported. "They're maintaining speed." Reed's patience wore thin. "Disable their engines." The Starhawk fired again, this time aiming directly for the Phoenix's propulsion systems. The energy beam struck, and seemed to pass through the vessel without effect. "Direct hit reported, but..." Liss's voice wavered. "No damage registered." Reed rose from his command chair, anger flaring. "Impossible. Fire again." Before the order could be carried out, the detection grid erupted with new signals. The space around the seemingly vulnerable human ship shimmered, and the true nature of the situation revealed itself. "Multiple vessels decloaking," Liss shouted, panic evident in her voice. "Count 5. No, 7. Destroyer class. Military. Configuration." Where moments before there had been a single defenseless transport, now stood a formation of sleek, heavily armed human warships. The Phoenix, they now realized, had been nothing but a holographic projection, bait in an elaborate trap. "Incoming transmission," Drav announced, voice trembling. A human face appeared on the main view screen. Captain Jack Mills of the Earth Space. Force wore an expression of calm satisfaction. "Attention, Alliance vessel," Mills said evenly. "You have entered restricted space and engaged in hostile action against a protected convoy. Power down your weapons and prepare to be boarded." Reed's blood ran cold. The humans hadn't been predictable after all. "Evasive maneuvers," Reed barked, his composure shattering. "Get us out of here." The Starhawk lurched as the helmsman attempted to pivot the cruiser away from the human ambush. But the Earth vessels had positioned themselves in a classic encirclement pattern, cutting off all escape vectors. "Sir, they're targeting our weapon systems," Liss reported, fingers flying across the tactical display. "Precision targeting. They're not trying to destroy us." Reed's mind raced. The Alliance had grossly underestimated human military capabilities. Their intelligence suggested Earth's fleet was primitive, relying on brute force rather than sophisticated technology. This precision trap suggested otherwise. "Shields to maximum," Reed ordered. "Return fire. Target their flagship." The Starhawk's main batteries discharged, sending bolts of energy toward the largest human vessel. The humans had anticipated this move. Their flagship's shields absorbed the impact without visible strain, the energy dissipating across a honeycomb pattern of defensive fields. "No effect, Captain," Liz said, disbelief coloring her voice. A second transmission came through. Captain Mills's face reappeared, now with a hint of impatience. "That was unwise, Captain Reed. We know your name, your vessel's capabilities, and your mission parameters. The Alliance's incursions into human territory end today." Reed's eyes widened. How did they know his name? The security breach implications were staggering. Before Reed could respond, the human vessels fired in perfect synchronization. Not deadly salvos, but precisely calculated bursts that methodically disabled the Starhawk's weapon emplacements and external sensors. "We've lost targeting," Liz cried. "Shields at 40%. First Officer Vex gripped the edge of the command console. "Captain, we cannot win this engagement." Reed knew Vex was right, but surrender to humans was unthinkable. In Alliance space, humans were considered technologically inferior. Dangerous, only in their unpredictability and stubborn resilience. This encounter shattered that perception entirely. "Launch fighters," Reed commanded. "All squadrons." "Sir," the hangar control officer objected. "Our fighters are outmatched." "Do it," Reed snarled. The Starhawk released its complement of 24 fighter craft. They streaked toward the human formation, weapons hot. Mill's expression on the view screen showed no concern. "I'd recommend recalling your fighters, Captain Reed. We'd prefer to avoid unnecessary casualties." Reed ignored him. The fighters accelerated toward the human vessels, only to find themselves engaged by smaller craft that seemed to materialize from nowhere. Stealth interceptors that had been hiding in the shadow of the larger ships. The battle was brutally short. Within minutes, half the Starhawk's fighters had been disabled, not destroyed, but immobilized by some kind of electromagnetic pulse weapon that left their pilots alive but helpless. "Recall the remaining fighters," Reed ordered, defeat bitter in his mouth. As the surviving fighters limped back toward the Starhawk, Reed noticed something odd. The human vessels were not pressing their advantage. They maintained their formation, weapons trained on the Starhawk, but held their fire. "They're waiting," Vex observed. "For what?" Reed asked. The answer came moments later, as space itself seemed to tear open beside the human formation. A massive vessel emerged from what appeared to be a controlled rift in space-time, a technology the Alliance had theorized but never successfully implemented. "Wormhole jump," Liz whispered in awe. "Point-to-point spatial manipulation." The new arrival dwarfed even the Starhawk. Its hull bore the unmistakable insignia of the Earth Space Force, but its design was unlike anything in Alliance records. "This is Admiral Thomas Ryan of the ESF Horizon," a new voice announced over the comm. "Captain Reed, your vessel is now impounded under Section 7 of the Orion Accords. Prepare to receive boarding parties." Reed sank back into his command chair, the full magnitude of his miscalculation crashing down upon him. The boarding was methodical and professional. Human Marines in powered combat suits moved through the Starhawk with practiced efficiency, securing critical systems and gathering the crew into monitored areas. Captain Reed and his senior officers were escorted to their own briefing room, now a detention center. "This is an outrage," Reed hissed as a human Marine removed his sidearm. "The Alliance will not stand for this provocation." The Marine, face obscured behind a polarized visor, made no response. Reed found this somehow more unsettling than any threat or taunt might have been. After 30 minutes of tense silence, the door slid open to admit Admiral Ryan and Captain Mills. In person, Ryan was tall and broad-shouldered, with silver-streaked hair and the weathered face of a career military officer. His uniform bore minimal insignia, a confidence that needed no adornment. "Captain Reed," Ryan said, his voice matching the calm authority Reed had heard over the comm. I trust you're being treated appropriately. Reed's crest flattened against his skull in anger. You have committed an act of war against the Galactic Alliance. Our response will be swift and— Let's dispense with the posturing, Ryan interrupted, placing a data tablet on the table. We both know the Alliance Council will disavow your actions once they learn the full scope of this operation. With a tap, Ryan activated the tablet. Holographic documents sprang to life above it: mission, logs, communication transcripts, financial records. Reed felt his inner eyelids close in an involuntary expression of shock. These were supposed to be encrypted files, accessible only to him and Alliance High Command. For the past 6 standard months, Ryan continued, your vessel has been conducting illegal seizures of civilian transports in the Orion border zone. Not just human ships, 17 different species have filed complaints. You've been operating without official sanction, Captain Reed. A rogue element. Reed's officers shifted uncomfortably. This was partially true. Their orders came through unofficial channels, with the understanding that the Alliance would maintain plausible deniability. You have no jurisdiction here, Reed insisted, though with less conviction. Mills stepped forward. Actually, we do. The Orion Accords specifically prohibit military action against civilian vessels in the border zone. Your government signed those accords. Furthermore, Ryan added, scrolling through the documents, we have evidence that you've been selling seized cargo and technology to private interests, specifically to consortium brokers in the Rigel system. This revelation sent a ripple of shock through Reed's officers. Their captain had told them the seized goods were being delivered to Alliance Intelligence Services. First Officer Vex turned to Reed, mandibles rigid with tension. Is this true, Captain? Reed's silence was damning. Ryan watched the exchange with clinical interest. Your crew seemed surprised, Captain. I take it they weren't aware of your arrangement with the consortium? This is human fabrication, Reed snarled. But the damage was done. The seed of doubt had been planted among his officers. We've transmitted all this evidence to Alliance High Command, Mills explained, along with footage of your unprovoked attack on what you believed was an unarmed transport. They've acknowledged receipt and are recalibrating their position. Ryan nodded toward the viewport where a new vessel had appeared, an Alliance diplomatic ship. That's the Unity carrying Special Envoy Trowel, Ryan said. The Alliance is eager to contain this situation before it escalates further. Reed felt the deck shifting beneath him. Not literally, but in every way that mattered. The carefully constructed narrative of human technological inferiority, their diplomatic isolation, their vulnerability in the border zone, all of it was unraveling. How? Reed finally asked, his voice hollow. How did you know? Captain Mills smiled thinly. You underestimated us, Captain. A common mistake. Humans don't just build ships and weapons, we build networks, intelligence, relationships. The Phoenix was never there, Ryan explained. A projected image enhanced with false sensor readings. We knew you were hunting in this sector. We knew your patterns, your targets of interest. Setting the trap was simple. Reed looked around at his officers, seeing the realization dawning in their eyes. They had been outplayed at every turn by the supposedly primitive humans. What happens now? Reed asked. Now, Ryan said, standing, you'll be transferred to the Alliance diplomatic vessel. Your fate is in your own government's hands. As if on— The door opened again, admitting 3 Alliance diplomatic security officers. Their expressions were grim. Captain Reed's transfer to the Alliance diplomatic vessel Unity was conducted under the watchful eyes of both human and Alliance security personnel. The corridors of his own ship, once his domain of absolute authority, now felt alien and hostile. Special. Envoy Trowel waited in the Starhawk's docking bay. A Cephan with the characteristic azure skin and elongated cranium of her species, Trowel's presence represented the highest levels of Alliance diplomatic corps. Her expression was unreadable as Reed was brought before her. Captain, she acknowledged coolly, the Alliance Council sends its regards. The formal phrase carried unmistakable undertones of displeasure. Reed felt his career crumbling around him. "Envoy Tral," Reed began. "These humans have violated—" "Silence," Tral commanded. "You will have opportunity to present your version of events at the formal inquiry. For now, you are relieved of command and remanded to diplomatic custody." As Reed was led away, Admiral Ryan approached Envoy Tral. The human's imposing height made the diminutive Scifian diplomat appear almost childlike by comparison, yet there was nothing diminutive about her bearing. "Admiral," Tral greeted him. "Your restraint in this matter has not gone unnoticed." Ryan inclined his head slightly. "Earth has no interest in escalation, Envoy, only in maintaining the security of neutral shipping lanes as agreed in the Accords." "Indeed." Tral's large, multifaceted eyes studied Ryan carefully. "Though your methods of enforcement were unexpected, the Council was unaware that human military technology had advanced to include targeted wormhole generation and holographic projection capable of fooling Alliance sensors." Ryan's expression remained neutral. "There are many things about humanity the Alliance has chosen not to learn, Envoy." The subtle rebuke hung in the air between them. For decades, the Alliance had dismissed Earth as a minor power, worthy of minimal diplomatic engagement. This demonstration of human capability suggested that policy had been short-sighted. "The Council requests a full briefing on the technology used in this operation," Tral said. Ryan smiled politely. "I'm afraid that won't be possible. Military specifications remain classified. However, we would welcome increased technological exchange as part of a broader diplomatic framework." In the diplomatic dance, this was a significant move, offering cooperation but only on terms of equality. Meanwhile, in the Starhawk's engineering section, human technicians were systematically documenting Alliance technology, not dismantling or sabotaging, simply learning, scanning, understanding. Captain Mills supervised the process, occasionally consulting with Chief Engineer Barnes. "Their power distribution system is interesting," Barnes observed, studying a schematic. "Less efficient than ours, but more stable under combat conditions." Mills nodded. "Document everything. Knowledge is leverage in whatever comes next." "Sir," a technician called out, "you should see this." Mills approached a section of the engine room where panels had been removed, revealing a secondary system that didn't appear in any Alliance technical specifications Earth had acquired. "What am I looking at, Specialist?" Mills asked. "Some kind of quantum signature analyzer, sir. It's designed to identify and track specific vessels across vast distances, even through conventional stealth systems." Mills frowned. "They've been tracking our fleet movements." "Not just tracking, sir. This could potentially identify any ship, anywhere, regardless of attempts to mask its identity." The implications were enormous. The Alliance had technology capable of rendering anonymity in space virtually impossible, a serious threat to Earth's intelligence operations and the security of its outposts. Back in the docking bay, the diplomatic dance between Ryan and Tral continued. "We propose a joint commission," Tral suggested, "to patrol the border zone and prevent further misunderstandings." Ryan considered this. "An interesting proposal. Earth would be open to discussion, provided the Commission operates with full transparency and equal authority." Tral's antennae twitched, a subtle tell of surprise among Cephans. The Alliance was accustomed to dictating terms, not negotiating as equals. "The Council will need to consider the details carefully," she said. "Of course," Ryan replied. "In the meantime, we'll continue our own patrols to ensure the safety of neutral shipping." The message was clear. Earth would not withdraw its forces or relinquish its newly demonstrated position of strength. As the human delegation prepared to depart the Starhawk, leaving a minimal security detail behind, Captain Mills approached Admiral Ryan with the information about the quantum signature analyzer. "They're more advanced than we thought in some areas," Mills murmured. Ryan nodded grimly. "And now we know why our deep cover operations have been compromised. This changes our strategic position significantly." The two officers watched as Envoy, Tral and her staff escorted the disgraced Captain Reed toward the Alliance diplomatic vessel. "What happens now?" Mills asked. "Now," Ryan replied. The real game begins. 3 weeks after the Starhawk incident, the diplomatic landscape of the Orion sector had shifted dramatically. On the neutral station Arcturus Prime, representatives from Earth and the Galactic Alliance convened for the first high-level diplomatic summit in nearly a decade. The station's grand conference chamber, a vast space of transparent aluminum and polished xenostone, hummed with tension. Admiral Ryan sat at the head of the Earth delegation, flanked by diplomatic officers and military advisors. Across the polished table, Envoy Trowell led a team of Alliance negotiators, their expressions guarded. The Alliance proposes a security buffer zone extending 12 parsecs from the current border, Trowell was saying, manipulating the holographic map between them. Military vessels would require prior authorization and transponder identification to enter. Ryan studied the proposed boundaries. The buffer zone would push Earth's patrol routes back significantly, limiting their ability to protect independent colonies and shipping lanes. Unacceptable, Ryan replied. The proposed zone encompasses 3 independent star systems that rely on Earth for security guarantees. Trowell's antennae twitched in irritation. The Alliance can extend protection to those systems. With respect, Envoy, Ryan countered. Those colonies specifically requested Earth protection after Alliance patrols failed to prevent consortium raids 3 years ago. The reference to this embarrassing failure caused a ripple of discomfort among the Alliance representatives. The consortium, a loose federation of mercenary groups and criminal syndicates, had exploited the Alliance's bureaucratic patrol scheduling to raid vulnerable colonies. Earth's response had been swift and decisive, a rapid deployment force that had crushed the consortium presence in the sector and established permanent protection for the affected systems. It had been Earth's first major military action beyond its recognized borders, and a significant blow to Alliance prestige. Perhaps, said a new voice, and we are approaching this from the wrong angle. All eyes turned to the speaker, a human woman who had thus far remained silent. Dr. Laura Marsh, Earth's leading xenodiplomat and advisor to the president. The fundamental issue, Marsh continued, isn't territorial control, but mutual security. Captain Reed's illegal actions were possible because our intelligence systems don't communicate, because we treat each other as potential threats rather than potential partners. Trowell studied Marsh with interest. What are you suggesting, Doctor? A joint security initiative, shared intelligence, coordinated patrols, a direct emergency communication protocol between our fleets. Not a buffer that separates us, but a framework that connects us. The Alliance contingent exchanged glances. This approach was unexpected. Humans were known for their independence and reluctance to integrate with galactic systems. Such cooperation would require unprecedented levels of trust, one of the Alliance diplomats observed. Indeed, Marsh agreed. Trust that has been lacking on both sides. Earth has been treated as a junior partner at best, a primitive curiosity at worst. Meanwhile, we've been reluctant to fully engage with Alliance structures we perceived as dismissive of our concerns. Admiral Ryan picked up the thread. The Starhawk incident demonstrated that neither side fully understood the other's capabilities or intentions. That's a dangerous foundation for neighboring powers. In the diplomatic observation gallery above, Captain Mills watched the proceedings with Chief Engineer Barnes. The engineer fidgeted with a data chip containing the complete analysis of the Alliance quantum signature technology they'd discovered. Do you think the Admiral will reveal what we found? Barnes asked quietly. Mills shook his head. Not yet. That's leverage, to be used only if necessary. Below, the negotiations continued. Trowell conferred briefly with her team before responding. To the human proposal, the concept has merit, she admitted. However, practical implementation would require significant technical integration. Our systems are not necessarily compatible. Dr. Marsh smiled faintly. Then let's make them compatible. A joint technical commission to develop shared protocols and interfaces. What remained unspoken but understood by both sides was the significant technology transfer this would entail. Earth would gain insight into Alliance systems, while the Alliance would finally get a clearer picture of humanity's true technological capabilities. There is another matter, Trall said, her tone shifting slightly. The quantum signature analyzer, recovered from the Starhawk. Mills tensed in the observation gallery. They hadn't expected the Alliance to address this directly. Ryan's expression remained neutral. An interesting piece of technology. We'd be interested in discussing its intended applications. Trall's large eyes fixed on Ryan. That technology was not authorized for deployment on border patrol vessels. Captain Reed's access to it raises concerns about factions within our own military structure. This was unexpected, an admission of internal division within the Alliance, something their diplomats typically took great pains to conceal. Perhaps, Ryan suggested carefully, our joint security initiative could begin by addressing these mutual concerns. Unauthorized military action threatens everyone's interests. A moment of understanding passed between them. Both Earth and the legitimate Alliance leadership faced the same potential threat. Rogue military elements with access to advanced technology and unclear agendas. I believe, Trall said, we have the beginning of a framework. The Arcturus Prime Summit concluded with the signing of the Orion Cooperation Accords, a document that would later be recognized as a pivotal moment in human-alliance relations. As the diplomats and military officials dispersed, Captain Mills found himself summoned to a secure briefing room deep within the human diplomatic section of the station. Admiral Ryan was waiting, along with Dr. Marsh and a holographic projection of President Alvarez from Earth Central Command. Captain, the President greeted him, excellent work on the Starhawk operation. You've helped create an opening we've been seeking for years. Mills nodded respectfully. Thank you, Madam President. Though I confess I'm surprised by how quickly things are moving. That's why we've called you here, Ryan explained. Things are about to move even faster. He activated a secure display showing a star chart of a region well beyond the Orion border zone. This is the Cerberus Reach. 3 months ago, one of our deep reconnaissance drones detected unusual energy patterns. In this previously uninhabited region, the display zoomed in on a distant star system where a massive structure orbited a nondescript red dwarf. What am I looking at? Mills asked. We're not entirely sure, Dr. Marsh admitted, but based on energy signatures and structural analysis, we believe it's a gateway. Mills felt a chill run down his spine. Gateways were the stuff of scientific theory and ancient legends, massive constructs theoretically capable of connecting distant points in the galaxy instantaneously. No functioning gateway had ever been confirmed, though many species had tales of their existence in the distant past. If this is genuine, President Alvarez said, it represents a discovery of incalculable value, scientific, military, economic. Every aspect of galactic civilization could be transformed. Ryan brought up another image, an Alliance military deployment chart obtained through intelligence channels. The Alliance has also detected the gateway. They're assembling an exploratory fleet in the Deneb sector. Based on their current preparations, they'll reach the gateway in approximately 6 weeks. And we're going to beat them to it, Mills guessed. No, Dr. Marsh corrected. We're going to meet them there, as partners under the new accords. Ryan nodded. You'll be commanding our contribution to the joint expedition, Captain. The Horizon is being refitted as we speak, with enhanced scientific capabilities and expanded crew quarters to accommodate Alliance specialists. Mills blinked in surprise. A joint mission? So quickly after the Accords? This is precisely why the Accords were accelerated, President Alvarez explained. Both sides recognized that a unilateral approach to the gateway could lead to dangerous misunderstandings or even conflict. Neither side is willing to cede this discovery to the other, so cooperation becomes the logical choice. There's more, Ryan added gravely. The quantum signature analyzer we discovered on the Starhawk, it wasn't standard Alliance technology. It appears to have been modified with components that don't match any known Alliance manufacturing signature. Dr. Marsh picked up the thread. We believe there's a third player involved, someone who provided Reed with advanced technology and possibly encouraged his aggressive behavior toward human vessels. The consortium? Mills suggested. Possibly, Ryan acknowledged. or someone using them as intermediaries. Whoever they are, they seemed intent on provoking conflict between Earth and the Alliance. The implications settled heavily on Mills. Someone had been manipulating events, pushing two major powers toward confrontation. The discovery of the gateway added an entirely new dimension to this already complex situation. "Your mission has 3 objectives," President Alvarez stated, her holographic form emphasizing each point. "First, represent Earth's interests in the gateway exploration. Second, build genuine working relationships with your Alliance counterparts. And third, remain vigilant for any sign of third-party interference." Mills absorbed the enormity of the task. "When do I depart?" 48 hours, Ryan answered. "The Alliance is sending their scientific flagship, the Discovery, commanded by Captain Lan. You'll rendezvous at the edge of the Cerberus Reach and proceed together." As the briefing concluded, Mills remained behind to speak privately with Admiral Ryan. "Sir, why me? There are more senior captains with scientific backgrounds who would be better suited for this mission." Ryan's expression softened slightly, a rare occurrence. "Because you demonstrated something crucial during the Starhawk operation, Mills. You showed restraint, precision. You disabled an enemy without destroying them when that would have been easier. You gathered intelligence rather than simply claiming victory." The Admiral placed a hand on Mills's shoulder. "Where we're going, those qualities may be more valuable than any technical expertise." Mills nodded, understanding the weight of responsibility being placed upon him. As he left the briefing room, he wondered what awaited at the gateway, and whether the fragile new partnership between humanity and the Alliance would survive the discovery. The journey to the Cerberus Reach took 3 weeks at maximum sustainable speed. Captain Mills used this time to prepare his crew for the unprecedented joint mission ahead. The Horizon's complement had been augmented with Earth's top xenoarchaeologists, physicists, and diplomatic specialists, many of whom had never served on a military vessel before. "Remember," Mills told his officers during their final briefing, "this isn't just a scientific mission or a military operation. It's a diplomatic, proving ground. Every interaction with our Alliance counterparts will shape the future of this relationship." As the Horizon approached the rendezvous coordinates, tension mounted on the bridge. This would be the first test of the newly signed accords in a practical setting. "Contact at bearing 347, announced Lieutenant Commander Fisk, the tactical officer. "Alliance vessel registering as the Discovery. They're signaling." Mills straightened his uniform. On screen. The view screen activated to show a commanding figure with the distinctive indigo skin and symmetrical cranial ridges of the Tellarian species. "Captain Mills, I presume? I am Captain Lan of the Alliance science vessel Discovery." "Captain Lan," Mills acknowledged with a respectful nod. "The Horizon stands ready to proceed with our joint mission." Lan's expression remained neutral, but his tone was cordial. "I propose we establish a shared command channel and proceed to the target coordinates in formation." "Agreed," Mills replied. The simplicity of this exchange belied its historic nature. Never before had human and Alliance military vessels coordinated operations outside of emergency situations. As the two ships aligned their course for the final approach to the gateway, Mills received a priority communication from Dr. Ellis, the lead xenoarchaeologist. "Captain," Ellis said, her excitement barely contained, "I've been analyzing the preliminary scans of the gateway structure. Its configuration matches fragmentary records found in the ruins on Epsilon Threed, a civilization that vanished over 50,000 years ago." "What does that tell us?" Mills asked. "That whoever built this was ancient and incredibly advanced. The Epsilon civilization was believed to be one of the first ones, the earliest spacefaring species in our galaxy." This information was both thrilling and sobering. They were approaching technology created by a species that had mastered interstellar travel when humans were still primitive hunter-gatherers on Earth. As the two ships entered the Cerberus Reach, the gateway came into view, a massive ring-like structure composed of an unknown dark material orbiting silently around its stellar anchor. Its scale was breathtaking, nearly 20 kilometers in diameter. "Magnificent," breathed Captain Lan over the shared channel. For the first time, Mills heard genuine emotion in the Talarian's voice. "Indeed," Mills agreed. "How do you propose we proceed?" "Our science teams should coordinate scanning protocols," Lan suggested. "Perhaps a joint analysis team could—" The tactical alert interrupted their discussion. "Unknown vessel detected," Fisk reported sharply, emerging from behind the gateway structure. A sleek, predatory craft moved into view, neither human nor Alliance in design. Its hull was matte black, absorbing light rather than reflecting it, making its true size difficult to determine. "They're powering weapons," Fisk warned. "Shields up," Mills ordered calmly. "But hold fire." On the split screen, he could see Captain Lan issuing similar orders. The unknown vessel accelerated, positioning itself between the joint expedition and the gateway. "We're receiving a transmission," Communications Officer Patel announced. A figure appeared on screen, humanoid but with distinctly non-human features, silver-gray skin, eyes with vertical pupils, and an elaborate exoskeletal headdress. "This installation is claimed by the Vex Dominion," the figure stated without preamble. "Your presence is unauthorized and unwelcome. Withdraw immediately or face elimination." Mills and Lan exchanged glances through their respective view screens. Neither had heard of the Vex Dominion before. "This is Captain Lan of the Galactic Alliance. We are on a peaceful exploratory mission. We request dialogue and—" "Dialogue is not required," the figure interrupted. "The gateway is not for lesser species to access. Final warning, withdraw." Mills leaned forward. "This is Captain Mills of Earth Space Force. The gateway exists in unclaimed space. We propose cooperative exploration that could benefit all." The unknown vessel fired, not at either ship but at the gateway itself. A concentrated energy beam struck the massive structure, and the gateway began to hum with power, its center filling with a swirling vortex of energy. "They're activating it," Dr. Ellis exclaimed. The Vex vessel fired again, this time targeting both expedition ships. The horizon rocked under the impact. "Their weapons technology is extremely advanced," Fisk reported grimly. "Shields at 60% from a single hit." Mills made a split-second decision. "Captain Lan, I propose immediate joint defensive action." The Talarian captain nodded sharply. "Agreed. Coordinating firing solutions now." What followed was the first true Human Alliance joint military operation. The Horizon and Discovery moved in perfect synchronization, covering each other's vulnerabilities and focusing fire on the Vex vessel's key systems. The attacker was powerful, but had clearly not expected coordinated resistance. As the gateway's energy field expanded, the Vex vessel attempted to maneuver toward it, apparently planning to escape through the portal. "They're making a run for the gateway," Mills observed. "We need to disable their engines." "Targeting solution shared," Lan confirmed. Both ships fired simultaneously, their combined weaponry finally penetrating the Vex vessel's formidable defenses. Its propulsion system failed, leaving it drifting helplessly as the gateway's energy field continued to expand. "Captain," Dr. Ellis called urgently, "the gateway activation sequence is continuing. Energy readings are off the scale. It's creating some kind of space-time distortion." The swirling vortex at the gateway's center had grown to fill the entire ring, pulsing with blinding intensity. The disabled Vex vessel was caught in its gravitational pull, slowly being drawn toward the event horizon. "All ships maximum reverse thrust," Mills ordered. "We need to clear the activation radius." The Horizon and Discovery strained against the growing gravitational pull. For several tense moments it seemed they might not escape, but gradually, they began to pull away from the gateway's influence. The Vex vessel wasn't so fortunate. As it crossed the event horizon, a massive surge of energy pulsed outward. When the blinding light faded, both the vessel and the vortex had vanished, leaving only the dormant gateway ring behind. An eerie silence fell over both bridges. "What just happened?" Mills asked quietly. Dr. Ellis studied her readings intently. The gateway created a controlled wormhole, Captain. The Vex vessel was transported somewhere, but the energy signature stabilized before collapsing. I believe the gateway is still functional, just dormant again. Captain Land's voice came through the comm. Captain Mills, I suggest we establish a joint perimeter and approach the gateway with caution. Whatever this Vex Dominion is, they clearly have prior knowledge of this technology. Agreed, Mills replied. And I think we just discovered who was supplying Captain Reed with advanced technology. They've been trying to keep us at odds, to prevent exactly this kind of cooperation. As the two ships established a defensive formation around the gateway, Mills reflected on the rapid evolution of human alliance relations. From adversaries to reluctant partners, to battlefield allies in less than a month. Dr. Ellis approached, her expression thoughtful. Captain, preliminary analysis suggests the gateway leads to multiple destinations. The Vex were attempting to program a specific endpoint. So it's not just a doorway, Mills mused. It's an entire network. Precisely, Ellis confirmed. And if we can decipher its control mechanism, the implications were staggering. Instant travel across the galaxy, perhaps even beyond. The strategic, scientific, and commercial advantages would be incalculable. Captain Land requested permission to send over a shuttle with his chief scientists. Mills readily agreed. In the HFY shuttle bay, as the Alliance specialists disembarked, Mills extended his hand to the Tellarian science officer who led them. After a moment's hesitation, the Tellarian took it, the first physical contact between their species in an official capacity. Welcome to the horizon, Mills said. Let's make history together. Admiral Ryan's words echoed in Mills' mind as human and alien scientists began their work. Restraint, precision, intelligence gathering. These qualities had transformed a potential conflict into an unprecedented alliance. As Mills watched the joint team set up equipment to study the gateway, he couldn't help but smile. The unknown forces had tried to set humanity and the Alliance against each other, and in doing so, had inadvertently united them. They had locked onto a human vessel hoping to trigger a war. Instead, they had created a partnership that would reshape the galaxy. The greatest miscalculation of all, they had underestimated humanity's capacity to turn adversity into opportunity. And now, together with their new allies, humans were about to take their first steps into a much larger universe.